Hello, good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock, it's Tuesday. It must be the Weather Studio Live. We are broadcasting live here from the Met Office. I'm Alex Deakin.
And I'm Aidan McGivern. The beauty of broadcasting live is we can bring you the very latest information about the weather forecast, what's happening now. But this week we're also going to be looking back in time, 10 years ago today, a truly exceptional weather event that occurred in Devon. Also, we're going to be talking about stormy weather in the Mediterranean. Storm Adrian that started the week in the Med and is now moving through parts of the UK. So we'll be talking about that. And a hurricane in the Atlantic, Hurricane Oscar. Will it influence the UK's weather into the weekend? So plenty to come this week.
Absolutely. It's a very busy week of weather, and of course many people on half-term as well, so the weather impacting you perhaps as well. Maybe you've travelled further afield to Europe as well, and the weather's having a big impact. If you are being affected by the weather, then please do get in touch. We're here for you to answer your questions. We'll try and answer as many of your questions that you send through the course of the show, but if not, we don't get time to answer them during the show. We can always answer them at a later date. So if you have any weather questions, do send them in. We are live on YouTube, we are live on Twitter, and we are live on Facebook as well. Don't forget to give us the thumbs up, and of course on YouTube, why not subscribe to our channel, and then you never miss an episode. As well as just Aidan and I, as if that weren't enough, we have not one but two guests for today's show. It is going to be an action-packed show, so let's get on with it, and let's bring the first guest in straight away. In you come, Helen. Welcome along to the show once again.
Thank you very much.
Helen Roberts, your second visit to the show, I believe.
Yes.
One of a small group of people to have appeared twice.
Becoming a regular.
Becoming a regular with the hat trick next time. Just briefly describe what you do here at the Met Office, what your role is.
So I'm a senior operational meteorologist. Specifically, I'm a media advisor working in our media team here in the operations centre. We're looking after all our broadcast customers as well as our social media content as well.
Fantastic. And what are we looking at today? What have you got to show us?
Well, today we're focusing on the Mediterranean. We've had some really unsettled weather across parts of the Med over recent days. It's all due to the jet stream, and this is how it was looking on Monday. So we had Storm Adrian that you mentioned just now. This brought a lot of heavy rain, some torrential downpours, as well as some snow across the Alps and the Pyrenees, some very strong and gusty winds, and some pretty frequent lightning as well. There's
see
that
the lightning there, can't you? So there's Italy, and take a look at this line of huge number of thunderstorms, lightning strikes crossing Italy during Monday afternoon. Incredible, wasn't it?
It really was, and some really very strong and gusty winds in association with this as well. So Corsica, northern parts of Corsica, for example, a couple of places had gusts to 116 miles per hour.
Wow. Wow, how unusual is that kind? I mean, that's pretty rare to get a storm of that.
That is really quite rare to see gusts of those sorts of speeds and such frequent and widespread lightning.
Yeah, each one of those little crosses, you might not be able to see it on the screen there, but each one of the tiny little crosses is a lightning strike. So there's literally thousands upon thousands of lightning strikes over the course of Monday in that small area.
You can see it forming
Italy,
a multicoloured line across the whole of Italy, pretty much, can't you, on Monday afternoon as a cold front went through.
That's right, and what's been happening is we've had some really cold air across northern parts of Europe. People in the UK will know that. It's been a chilly weekend. Cold air digging down from the Arctic and very warm tropical air in the south, and we know that when two air masses meet, then you can get some pretty exceptional
So incredibly
weather.
Damaging gusts of wind, and that's why the French Meteorological Service named that storm. So it was the French that named the storm Adrian or Adrian, probably.
Yeah.
So they named the storm, and it also impacted Italy, perhaps more severely, with incredible scenes like this.
It did. So this is an island off Tuscany, but we saw widespread flooding, river flooding, as well as coastal issues across southern Switzerland, northern Italy. Germany's been affected. France has been affected as well.
Yeah, and there was also a sighting of a waterspout, wasn't there?
There was,
right
in this same location, a really well-defined waterspout as well.
Yeah, so some very volatile weather for Italy, and scenes like this in Venice, which aren't entirely uncommon in the winter. You do see flooding in Venice in the winter, but this was quite exceptional.
It was exceptional. It was one of those sort of perfect storm scenarios where we had strong winds through the Adriatic, we had the river flooding from the very heavy and intense rainfall, and a storm surge as well, known locally as an aqua alta. So these three things combined to give some really exceptional flooding through Venice.
A storm surge is where the water kind of gets pushed up, both by a combination of the low pressure sucking the water, but also funneling through.
Exactly,
through
and the northern
floor,
Adriatic,
yeah. So the
you
water
get
just
that.
gets pushed up, and you get a rise. So the tide isn't just its normal tide; it gets added to, as we can see here. What's this showing us, Aidan?
Well, this is early afternoon yesterday when it peaked. So high tide in Venice, and it's giving a value there of 1.433, which is a fairly rare.
That's pretty rare, and if we go on to the next graphic, you can see that 1 metre above sea level, and a small proportion of Venice is underwater,
So
around
3%, yeah.
But as the water rises, an increasing proportion of the city becomes flooded, and with that 1.433 that we just saw, probably in excess of 90% of the city was flooded at some point. And so, yeah, huge amounts of
Difficult to
destruction.
say, isn't it, exactly how much of the city. There are various complications, but certainly a majority of the city underwater.
Yeah.
These things do happen every winter in Venice, but at this level, well, some quotes are suggesting that it's 10 years or more.
Possibly even more, yeah. It looks like at least a decade since we've seen levels like this.
Incredible.
So might get confirmation on that in the next few days. But yeah, incredible scene. Is it going to stay unsettled? That's what we want to know. Let's zoom out and take a look at, again, the jet stream, because that's just been dipping south over Iberia, hasn't it?
It's digging well down to the south, so we've been on the cold side of the jet here in the UK, hence the cold weekend, but it's bringing all those low pressure systems through and across parts of the Mediterranean.
That's where you get that U, isn't it? That's the trough. That's where that's a breeding ground for low pressure systems, and another one just develops later this week.
So we're definitely going to see further unsettled conditions in similar locations. Thankfully, it looks like Venice might avoid the worst of any more rain. There will be some rain, but it shouldn't be too heavy or impactful. But a little bit further west, again across parts of northern, central Italy, as well as parts of France and Switzerland, yet again.
I'm just looking at those islands, because again, it's half term across parts of the UK. Sicily, Sardinia, Corsica. Even the Balearics again being affected. There could be a lot of people from the UK on holiday there.
The clock is going by there. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it's just constant.
Kept on coming, yeah. So it's
rain,
a bit of a respite now
wind.
as Aidan moves north, but then it starts again through Wednesday, more heavy downpours.
Yeah, initially across Iberia and then tracking through the Mediterranean.
Yeah, so some very, very unsettled weather from the Mediterranean. Hopefully, not for much longer. Hopefully something will change into next week.
Helen, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us again.
Thank you.
And we'll have you again back for the hat trick.
Brilliant. Look forward to it.
Sometime soon. Thank you for joining us. That's really interesting stuff there going on across the Mediterranean. But what about closer to home? Well, Adrian is kind of bringing us some wet weather as well. Let's just see if we've had any questions in before we get on to that. Sean on Facebook asks, why over the last 12 to 18 months has the UK experienced so much high pressure in winter and summer? Is it part of a trend? Aidan? So much high pressure. It was quite high pressure for most of last winter. I mean, that's one of the reasons why the beast from the east.
Certainly at the end of winter into spring, yeah, we had high pressure. We had a jet stream that was particularly amplified, as we call it, which means that it's, rather than running directly across the Atlantic and into the UK, bringing us areas of low pressure, it's much more wriggly and tends to keep areas of low pressure and high pressure in the same place for long periods of time. And we in the UK had high pressure nearby for long periods of time through the latter half of winter into spring and through much of summer. And we've seen certain aspects of that again through autumn, not all the time. Sometimes we've had Atlantic storms returning.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's been anything exceptional so far. I mean, obviously a case for study, but I don't think there's been anything exceptional about the amount of high pressures we've seen over the past 12 months. It's just been the fact that they've coincided and tended to bring exceptional weather, I guess, is kind of the thing.
That's what happens when you get areas of high pressure sticking around. They bring exceptional weather, heat in the summer, cold weather in the winter, because we don't tend to get those kinds of high pressure sticking around for so long. Our climate is much more changeable. It comes from the west more typically. It would be too early to say whether it's part of a long-term trend, whether it's to do with various factors like Arctic sea ice melt, warming Atlantic So it's too early to tell, I suspect, and it's such a complicated topic. There are a lot of studies
to go into. And another complicated topic that we always get questions on, that we always love hearing about as well. When will it snow? This time of year, people start getting really excited. We have had some. There was a bit over the course of the weekend, down to relatively low levels across northern England, down even into the Midlands a little bit, and of course snow over the hills in Scotland. That's not that unusual, but it has been quite an exceptionally cold spell of weather over the past few days. It was really low this morning, temperatures across Wales.
Yeah, I think for
England.
Sunday's maximum temperatures, you'd have to go back about 10 years to see a daytime as chilly as that across the UK. So there are different ways to compare temperatures at this time of year. Obviously, nighttime temperatures, daytime temperatures. Last night, some places got down as low as -7 degrees. And so it could be that in one or two stations across, say, western parts of Britain, it was -5 in Exeter Airport. It could be that in some of these places, station records were broken.
However, for those desperate for snow, snowmantics I like to call them, people who really want snow, it's not great news, is it? Because this week, actually, the weather's changing and we're finally going to get more of westerly influence, and it's actually going to turn quite a bit milder by the weekend. But we'll have more on that in a moment, because
Speaking of being chilly,
out there at the moment, it is far from mild. This is the current scene out there this afternoon. And, temperatures single figures for the rest of today. Now, in the sunshine, 8-9 degrees with light winds doesn't feel too bad. Actually, a very pleasant autumn day. But if you are down the east coast of England today, well, you've probably noticed it's pretty grim out there. And you've probably noticed this big swirl of cloud. And that, of course, is Adrian, what's left of Storm Adrian, the low-pressure system that's heading its way up across Germany. Wet and windy weather here. There's Denmark there. We're just getting a glancing blow from Adrian. But if you're on the east coast, we haven't got any warnings out. It's not that exceptional, but it is just pretty grim in terms of the weather. It's wet, it's windy. If you're on the north coast of Norfolk the rest of the afternoon. The good news is that by the time we get to this evening, that whole low-pressure system, Adrian, starts to move away, and, well, it should get a little bit drier, and the winds will finally start to ease down too. And
colder. You can see the numbers dropping away there in the countryside, even colder than that. A fairly widespread frost, particularly central and eastern areas, where we were frost-free last night. The coldest air was in the west.
Yeah.
But tonight, a reversal of fortunes, because you've got cloud and some showers pushing into the west. You've got the clearest skies eventually in the east, and -1, -2 in some of the urban areas across, say, Scotland, northeast England, -5, -6, say, for sheltered Scottish glens. So bone-chilling start again on Wednesday, on Halloween.
We'll have a look at the UK forecast over the rest of this week into the weekend in just a moment. But first of all, shall we go back a decade?
Yeah, lovely start to the day, wasn't it, today?
Today in
Ottery St Mary.
Ottery St Mary.
Yeah, my local town, Ottery St Mary. You're not far away either. Yeah. It was beautiful out there. -4 degrees, sunny skies. A complete contrast to 10 years ago in Ottery St Mary, because there was an exceptional weather event. Let's bring in
Nick.
Guest.
Come on in, Nick Graham. Yes, about 10 miles away in that direction, small town, Ottery St Mary in Devon. Nick, welcome along to the show.
Thank you.
First of all, let's tell everyone what your role is here, or what your role used to be.
What my role used to be, yes, I am retired now, but I used to be a chief meteorologist up in the operations centre here for many, many years.
And a chief meteorologist, basically, you're kind of in control of the weather here,
that's right?
You're the go-to guy with anything meteorological in the office.
That's right.
And
but I wasn't on that night.
You weren't on that night. But you live locally as well.
I live in Ottery St Mary.
And you wrote a paper on this on this particular incident.
Yeah.
Let's first of all remind ourselves, or show people that don't know what happened. These are the images from 10 years ago today.
That's right.
And that's not snow.
No, that's right. No, it was very interesting because when the media found out about the story, it was immediately 4-foot snowdrifts in Ottery, and I woke up and I thought, hang on a sec, what's going on here? This is slightly over the top. And it's only when I took my dog for a walk, because what happened here is that we had at least 2 hours of hail. Just before midnight. It was a normal evening. It was just like light rain, nothing exceptional. And then just before midnight, we heard some thunder. The rain became heavier. And then within about 10 minutes, hail started coming down. And it just went on and on and on for 2 hours at least.
Yeah,
And it's
we've
absolutely
all
phenomenal.
seen hail, haven't we?
Yeah.
Normally it lasts for 5-10 minutes.
Absolutely, yeah.
I just
Yeah.
can't imagine 2 hours
Yeah.
of hail.
Yeah, but what it was, in the summer you get quite large hailstones.
Yeah.
In the winter you tend to get smaller hailstones, called graupel, that's the sort of a technical term. And what happened here is, because we had 2 hours of this hail coming down at quite a rate, it was sort of washed down. Now, Ottery St Mary is right in the bottom of the Otter Valley. So all the hail that was falling around was just basically getting washed down into the lower parts of Ottery. And this is one of the lower parts of Ottery. And as you can see here, it's phenomenal.
Yeah,
depth.
that, again, you'd think that was snow.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
looked at it,
And
it
you can
was
see
snow.
why.
But it's, no, you can see why.
You can see
people
why
thought
it was
but
called
it's
snow. So as I
actually
say,
hail.
yeah.
Now, okay,
Solid
so
ice. Solid
hail
ice.
lasts for 5 minutes, 10 minutes normally. Why did this last for 2 hours? Because that's the exception. One of the
Exactly,
exceptional
yeah. And this was a real freak.
Yeah.
Everything came together for this. There's the bigger picture here. You can see there's a low pressure sort of sinking down across the UK, and there's the front there, and that's where the activity was focused. But there was a lot going on. This is just at the surface. There was a lot going on in the atmosphere, sort of above the surface, and it was basically sucking up warm air off the English Channel at low levels, and then up in the higher part of the atmosphere, it was cooling off, so it was becoming, what we say, more and more unstable.
Right.
And the other thing is that everything got stuck right over here. So as well as
this is where we are.
that's right, yeah. So I mean, I know Ottery St Mary well as you guys do, but most people watching probably don't. This is Ottery St Mary here. This is 6 miles between here and the sea, and in October the sea is warm.
Yeah.
We talked about the cold weather this morning, but this morning the sea is still relatively warm. So that pattern induced a flow off the sea. So a lot of warm air coming in here, all at the bottom. It was cooling off at the top, so it's going up, and it was beginning to form cumulonimbus thunderstorms. And because the pattern was slowing all the way down, it just got stuck in this area. And then there's other factors as well which made this such a freak event. You've got a hill range here, and so it's almost like funneling right into the Ottery St Mary area up here. And because everything was slowing down, all this other stuff coming into play, it meant that we got this incredible event. Absolutely amazing event.
So funneling up the Otter Valley,
Yeah.
you've got hills there.
Hills here to sort of keep it in position.
Yeah.
And as I say, the bigger scale was sort of slowing down, so everything was getting stuck. So you can't really see it here, but here's the south coast, and this big blobby things here is where you've got these huge cumulonimbus clouds just going up and just being maintained in one place. And that's why, as you were saying, you don't often get hail for too long. It was just all the time in one place.
Kept
2
on
hours
going.
of hail. Sounds really interesting on a conservatory roof.
Yeah,
This is where I was.
I bet you were quite worried.
You were quite excited though. The meteorologist was
Yes.
like, wow, what's going on?
I
This
mean,
is amazing.
yeah, that's right. Naturally excited, but now I thought, hang on, how long is this going to go on for? I mean, the impact. We talk about the meteorological and stuff, and we smile about it, but the impacts were really quite.
Estimates of £1 million worth of damage.
Yeah,
Hundreds of people were evacuated.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Many properties really
Yeah.
badly flooded as
Yeah,
well. Because
yeah.
the reports of 200 millimetres of rain or
That's
equivalent
right.
from the
That's
hail.
right. Yes, yes. I mean, I can tell you, exactly what the estimate was in a minute. But the radar displays here is basically looking at this line here. Where you've got the white colours there, that is really, really intense rain. And each of those... Do you want to talk it through?
These are at half-hourly intervals, and I appreciate that it would be difficult to make out the land there, but essentially where the white colour is there, it's very heavy rainfall or
And
hail,
hail.
and it's in the same place. Ottery will be in the middle of that white, and it's every half hour. So 2-3 hours of that
Just
rate.
stuck.
Yeah, just stuck.
Stuck,
So
yeah.
you can see very little movement.
Yeah,
Something called back-building thunderstorms.
Yes, that's right.
Where
Yeah,
thunderstorms
yeah.
form and
Yeah,
then...
and then they just feed on themselves.
Feed
in a
on
sense,
themselves,
with the flow
yeah.
going in. Yeah, yeah.
And there's the result.
And there's the
that we've
result.
seen.
Yeah, that's right.
And of course, this hail blocked up the drainage and led to flooding because the drainage was blocked. So when all of this melted out,
Yeah.
the rainfall,
Yeah.
devastating
Yeah.
scenes. Then
There's a lot of flooding.
Yeah,
even
yeah.
people that weren't on low
In
lying
Ottery, and also all the streams around, and sort of away from Ottery, the River Otter, and streams going westwards as well, and to the north of Ottery. A lot of those streams became completely overwhelmed with this, like you say, hail blocking things up. So there's a lot of localised flooding.
How much rainfall equivalent would that be? So the amount.
Well,
of hail?
that's very interesting. We did a lot of work in trying to identify exactly how much rain there would be. We worked with the Environment Agency to find out the best estimate, and the estimate is 177 millimetres in 3 hours.
Wow.
Now that's twice what you would get in a whole month in October in that area. Absolutely phenomenal.
So exceptional. One in a 100, 200?
200, 250 year event, I would say.
It's tricky to tell from the radar as well, because the radar, when it hits hailstones, it reacts slightly differently as well. So you actually quite an interesting case study to work out how
That's
much
right, yeah. You had the radar estimates, and you had to sort of extract out the bits that were linked to the hail. And as I say, there was a lot of work went into this, and we ended up with this 177 in 3 hours. And yet at Exeter Airport, which is a mere sort of 6 miles to the west, 6 millimetres.
Wow.
It was that localised.
Incredible.
And, you know, people who have sort of told stories about this, you know, others who lived nearby but not in Ottery, they didn't believe what they were saying. They said, well...
We haven't had anything. Yeah, it's incredible. Wow, absolutely incredible. It goes to show how difficult meteorology can be to forecast.
Indeed,
as well. But you are trying to, you're getting people's memories from the situation on Facebook as well, because you're trying to get something put up in the local museum.
That's right, I want a permanent display in the Heritage Museum in Ottery to mark this event, because I think 177 in 3 hours is close to, if not, a British record for 3 hours. Wow. And therefore we do need something. And a museum is a good place.
Hailstones.
And all these pictures will bring back. That's right,
bring back incredible.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Nick, thank you very much for coming on and talking about that today. It's really interesting. Really interesting. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Are you going to watch the tar barrels next week? Because that's another thing that Ottery is famous for. The famous bonfire tradition. I'll see you there, Nick.
There's a page on the Met Office website, actually, that links all about the story and has more information, has all those charts that you can look at as well. So go and visit that for more information about that incredible storm. Again, 10 years ago to the day that happened. So thank you very much, Nick, for coming on about that. Any more questions?
Well, Margaret Caddens on Facebook asks, is Hurricane Oscar going to affect central Scotland? We'll talk more about this just in a minute, but yes and no, I guess, is the answer to that. Not unusual to have hurricanes transition into low pressure systems and head towards the UK. Mad Mike on YouTube wants to know whether November the 5th will be a washout. That's next Monday,
isn't it? But of course, a lot of people have fireworks now, and I'm old school, I only believe it should be on the 5th, but obviously a lot of people do have fireworks through the weekend. And actually, Saturday night could be quite interesting, because there's a spell of very windy weather on the way, and that can actually impact fireworks, particularly it looks like across northern and western parts of the UK. So that's a factor. Sunday also looks as if it could be quite windy. As for Monday, it's a bit of a mixed picture at the moment. It looks unsettled, to say the least, but we really have the details on for Monday. It doesn't look like it's particularly going to be a washout. Again, it depends on where you are, and we'll have a full actual firework forecast available later this week, because there'll be events going on through the weekend and into next week. So stay tuned on that. More snow, Aidan? More snow?
Looks like it, doesn't it? It does. Like hail. Almost. Like hail. Hail often you get when it's very warm. It's 25 degrees in Canberra when this video was shot, but it's not snow or hail.
What is it?
Something more fluffy.
Oh, you can see it there now.
Yeah.
Fluff.
Blossom.
It's a technical term, fluff. From silver poplar trees, I believe, in the Canberra area. Happens pretty much every year, but it's a spectacular display this year. What's that? Ankle deep in fluff rather than snow in Canberra, 25 degrees.
I'm sure no one will be complaining about that. Looks very nice.
What about the UK weather? What's going to happen?
Margaret asked about Hurricane Oscar. This is the official forecast track from the National Hurricane Centre. Oscar at the moment in the mid-Atlantic, a hurricane that's expected to move northeastwards over the next few days. And the dates are here. Here's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And here you've got the H written on the graphic, and then S. So at some point between Thursday and Friday, the hurricane will transition into what we call an extratropical depression. In other words, a typical area of low pressure with weather fronts, wind and rain and so on. That is likely to head to the northwest of the UK during the weekend. Now, a few days ago, some of the computer models were predicting a more direct hit for the UK. Thankfully, it's now moving to the north, and it looks most likely that it will be the far northwest that experiences the strongest winds. And as we head towards the end of the week, let's take a look at Hurricane Oscar. Here it is on the weather graphic, and let's put on the jet stream. And what happens when hurricanes move north? They leave warm waters behind, so they lose that energy source, but often they can get swept up into the jet stream, and that provides another fuel source for these ex-hurricanes. And by later Thursday, it's just a deep low in the Atlantic, with weather fronts on it.
See the jet stream, they're picking it up, so it's in that little trough area, which is actually keeping some strength to it, although it will be post-tropical by this stage.
And by the end of Friday, the winds will be picking up. So Friday is actually a cold, frosty, sunny start for many places. A fine day for most of us, but we'll notice the winds picking up, the cloud building, and then at the start of the weekend, so this is Saturday, there is ex-Oscar to the northwest of Britain, bringing strong winds to northwestern parts of the country, bringing outbreaks of rain as well to northern areas. But because of its more northerly track, well, let's switch on the rain, and you can see that it's mainly northern and western Britain through Saturday and Sunday that will have the wet weather. And actually, southeastern parts of the country, because Oscar by this stage will slow down, most likely, are most likely to stay dry and have some sunshine, and actually it will feel warmer because we'll have a different wind direction compared to last weekend. So it's not going to be unsettled everywhere.
16 degrees come the weekend. It was struggling in single figures for most of this week. So it will feel milder, it will turn windier, and for some it will turn wetter as well. So particularly those western areas looking quite wet and windy into the weekend, but the southeast may well stay largely dry. But we do have to say there is quite a bit of uncertainty. This time yesterday, the forecast was for all areas to turn wet and windy. So this is still a few days off. And of course, whenever we've got these ex-hurricanes, they've got a lot of energy, and that confuses or adds to the uncertainty in the atmosphere. So there's always a bit more uncertainty when we're dealing with these systems, these tropical systems that come up and influence, because they have to transition, and they also do influence things going on, so they can actually influence the jet stream. So there's always a bit more uncertainty and more confusion about the forecast. So the message at the moment, I would say, was stay tuned to the forecast as we go towards the weekend. Things could change a little bit, but at the moment it looks like it will turn quite windy. It'll turn a bit milder with the wettest weather in the north and the west.
That's right. So any more questions before we leave?
I had a nice picture from Claire Nazir. She's just sent it in randomly to us. She's not here this week, but she will be back next week.
She's in Tenerife. That's a nice picture from Tenerife.
Will you be putting a weather warning up? We don't have any warnings in force at the moment. Obviously, we need a bit more certainty about the system, how it comes in. We may well issue warnings over the next few days, possibly depending on how intense that gets. But at the moment, there aren't any warnings in force for that. Halloween tomorrow evening, of course. If you're out trick-or-treating, well, we'll have a special Halloween forecast for you tomorrow. But generally, it looks like the central slice of the UK, if you're out tomorrow evening, looks dry, but there will be some showers across Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, and there could be some rain pushing into the southeast of England as well. But stay tuned, and you can do that by watching us on social media for more updates on all of that. Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, Instagram and Snapchat as well. Follow us, keep sending in your questions, give us the thumbs up and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. But that's all from us for this week. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.
See you next week.